Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on NewsFeed today. The United States quits a United Nations body. Sounds drastic, but does it matter?
For too long, the Human Rights Council has been a protector of human rights abusers and a cesspool of political bias.
A murder in Australia reveals the different ways the country treats the safety of men and women. Weed all about it. Canada decides it wants to legalise cannabis for recreational use. And why is this polar bear on a treadmill? No, that's not the start of a dad joke. It's today's animals doing stuff. Now, top of our newsfeed, the United States has announced it's quitting the UN Human Rights Council. Now, it's not the first case of Washington going it alone. They've left the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the Paris Climate Change Agreement, and the Iran nuclear deal. So is this just par for the course for an increasingly isolationist United States, or does it tell us something more fundamental about the problems at the UNHCR?
For too long, the Human Rights Council has been a protector of human rights abusers and a cesspool of political bias.
The UN Human Rights Council was set up in 2006 with 47 member states. The US joined in 2009. But in 2013, China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Algeria and Vietnam were elected members, to the anger and disbelief of human rights groups. All 5 have questionable human rights records. The Philippines is also a member, despite extrajudicial killings sanctioned by President Rodrigo Duterte. But Israel is the only country that is subject to a permanent standing agenda item because of its treatment of Palestinians.
We have no doubt that there was once a noble vision for this council. But today we need to be honest. The Human Rights Council is a poor defender of human rights. Worse than that, the Human Rights Council has become an exercise in shameless hypocrisy, with many of the world's worst human rights abuses going ignored, and some of the world's most serious offenders sitting on the Council itself.
Israel thanks President Trump, Secretary Pompeo, and Ambassador Haley for their courageous decision against the hypocrisy and the lies of the so-called UN Human Rights Council. Let
me say it very clearly. If human rights issues are not discussed here, in this very room, they have little chance to be dealt with meaningfully anywhere else.
So, can the UN's Human Rights Council be taken seriously without the US? And is it a defender of human rights for all, or just some?
All right, let's take a look at what else is trending on social media. It's World Refugee Day. The hashtag is trending worldwide. Amnesty International has shared this video of refugees sharing their stories about their name. And the UN says a person is forced to flee their home every 2 seconds, and a staggering 52% of the world's refugees are actually children. Hashtag Juneteenth, the day of emancipation for enslaved people in America, is being marked. June the 19th was the day that the final US state abolished the use of human beings as property. That state was Texas in 1865. Now, people added pictures like this of themselves to show their respect for the at least 400 million Africans forced from their homes and into bondage across the Americas for more than 4 centuries. And a man who once worked for Donald Trump did this when talking about a disabled child who was being held at a US border after being taken from their parents.
And put in a cage. I read about a did you say wah wah?
Yes, that's the grown man making a noise that shows he does not give a single thing about the plight of a disabled child being held in detention in America for escaping poverty and violence in their own country. And this man regularly advises President Donald Trump. Now, there's a huge debate raging in Australian media right now about whether safety advice given to women is sexist. Last week, a young woman was raped and murdered, and the police response has been questioned. Take a look at this.
Why has the rape and murder of this Australian woman caused so much controversy? Comedian Eurydice Riddy Dixon was on her way home from a gig in Melbourne. Her body was found on a soccer pitch a few hours later. She'd been raped and murdered. But the way police responded has made many people angry.
take responsibility for your safety, make sure that you have situational awareness, make sure that people know where you are, and that, if you've got a mobile phone, carry it.
Many people say putting the onus on women is a type of victim blaming, which is rarely levelled at men when they're the victim of crime.
This might upset some people, but honestly, parents, instead of telling our girls not to walk through parks, maybe we should be telling our boys not to rape them.
When I was a 22-year-old comedian, I constantly walked home alone from gigs in the middle of the night because I couldn't afford tram fare, let alone taxis. Should we allow murderous rapists and poverty to ensure we're locked inside for our entire lives?
But not everyone agrees.
It's not victim blaming or sexism to tell women to take care in dark parks at night.
But Australian women say they already take precautions.
What happened to Eurydice Dixon is every woman's fear. It's the reason we walk with our keys in our hands in the dark.
Research shows that self-defence does work in some instances when preventing attacks on women. But given that sexual offences have risen in Victoria in the past year, should the onus really be on women to step up, or should law enforcement be taking a more active approach?
Now, water crises around the world are threatening not only human health, there are also fears that they could soon spark a major war for resources. Now, the world's biggest democracy, India, is dealing with a massive shortage of usable water, and the capital, New Delhi, will reportedly run out completely by the year 2020. So is anything being done to avert a coming disaster? Take you around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Wednesday. Marijuana will be legally available for people to buy in Canada from September. As long as you're over the age of 18, you can legally possess 27.5 grams in public. Now, Canadians reportedly spend $4.5 billion on cannabis just last year. It's almost as much as they spend on wine. The world's best restaurant has been declared, and it's Osteria Francescana in Modena, in northern Italy. Here's the head chef Massimo Bottura receiving the award, and here are some looks at some fancy pants plates you can enjoy, courtesy of my producer Denis, who was lucky enough to eat there last year. Said it was delicious. Now this is the advert for Optus, an Australian company who had the rights to show the World Cup there, charging people $15 a time. Now, problem is, they were unable to, in their own words, get over technical issues, which meant that fans have not been able to stream the games. So now, a public broadcaster, SBS, will show the games free of charge, and Optus fans are getting refunded. Result. Take a look inside this ATM in India. The machine had stopped working, so they of course sent a technician to go and check it out, and found more than $250,000 worth of shredded banknotes. Turns out some rats have been using it as a nest. Pretty expensive nest. Now, Turkey will vote in presidential and parliamentary elections this coming Sunday, the 24th of June. We're profiling all the presidential candidates. Today, we're going to look at Meral Akşener and Selahattin Demirtas.
silahlı bir halk hareketi olarak tanımlıyoruz. 1990'dan bu yana kurulmuş hiçbir partimiz PKK'yı terör örgütü olarak tanımlamadı.
Now, Venezuela is fast becoming a failed state. Many observers would already call it such. Decades of mismanagement, corruption and cronyism by a socialist government have left the country on its knees. Once oil-rich people now can barely afford basic medicine, even if they can find it. So as the state collapses, how are the people in the cities meant to feel safe? And can technology help?
Lo adquirí porque en verdad es con un acompañamiento y por lo menos yo que siempre estoy sola con mis hijos en el carro por cualquier cosa, uno se siente más seguro.
En el momento que tú presionas el botón de asistencia, los operadores de acompañamiento que estén más cercanos a la geolocalización en la que tú te encuentras van a acudir a ese lugar y en paralelo tú estás recibiendo una llamada de nuestro centro de monitoreo y control que está entendiendo qué es lo que te sucede.
And today's Animals Doing Stuff is all in the name of science. There's been a debate among scientists that bears use more energy than animals of a comparable size. Scientists say, how about working on a cure for cancer? Anyway, they use this treadmill and some digital mapping technology to conclude that no, bears don't choose more energy walking than they should. So, now you know. And that's all from the NewsFeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. I'm at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add. See you again tomorrow.